Madam, you can start now. Ma'am, unmute yourself.
श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः. गुरु ब्रह्म गुरु विष्णु गुरुदेवो महेश्वर गुरु साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः. A very good morning to all the participants. With a warm greetings, I, Dr. Mahima SB, Assistant Professor, Department of Yoganidhana, AMV Hubli, extend my warmest welcome to each and everyone for the second day of Sroto Anveshana 2020 webinar, which will be streaming live on Facebook. On Facebook, it will be live over the Jeshta 2020 page. Today, we are on the last day of webinar Sroto Anveshana 2020, and we are having two eminent personalities to build this event. So first session by Dr. Ajanta Shivaji Kotekar sir, Professor, Department of Roganidhana and Vikruti Vignana for PG and UG study, SDM College and Hospital, Hassan. Sir is giving talk on Annavaha Sroto Vikaras. And second session by Dr. Samir N. Nayak sir, Professor, Department of Kaya Chikitsa, Krishna Ayurveda Medical College, Sankeshwar. Sir is giving talk on Raktavaha Sroto Vikaras. So now, in the first session, we have with us Dr. Ajanta Shivaji Kotekar sir. Sir is So warm welcome to you, sir, on behalf of Sroto Anveshana 2020 Organizing Committee. So now I would like to call Dr. Shaila, final year PG scholar, Roganidhana Department, AMV, to introduce Dr. Ajanta Shivaji Kotekar, sir.
Good morning all. Myself Dr. Shaila, PG scholar from Roganidhana and Vikruti Vignana Department. Pleasure to introduce today eminent speaker Dr. Ajanta Shivaji Kotekar sir. Sir is native of Kotekar Biri, Mangalore Taluk, Dakshina Kannada district. Presently, sir is working as a professor in Department of Roganidhana and Vikruti Vignana for PG and UG studies and additional dean for students affairs at prestigious STM College of Ayurveda and Hospital, Hassan. Sir had completed schooling in Mangaluru at St. Aloys, completed BMS from STM College of Ayurveda, Udupi, MD in Kaya Chikitsa from Government Ayurveda Medical College, Mysuru, PhD Kaya Chikitsa from IPGT and RA Jamnagar, Gujarat, Ayurveda University, postgraduate diploma in Yoga and Naturopathy from Gujarat Ayurveda University. Sir has research experience in male infertility and osteoarthritis. Sir has vast 20 years of clinical experience and 13 years of UG and PG teaching with international students. Sir has handled many administrative posts at various levels. Sir has 53 scientific publications, STM Guru Award for the year 2020, and resource person for many seminars and CMEs across globe, including London, UK. Here I present you Dr. Ajanta Shivaji Kotekar sir. I thank you organizing committee for giving me this opportunity. Thank you all. Here the session for you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Shaila.
Very good morning, all of you. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, audible.
Am I clearly audible?
Hello.
Am I clearly audible?
Sir, clearly audible.
Okay, then we'll start the presentation. Shall I begin with the presentation?
Okay, sir. You can start, sir.
Is the slide visible? Is the slide visible?
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir.
Sir, no, sir.
Is the slide visible now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now it is
Am I
visible.
am I clearly audible?
Sir.
Good morning, all. Today we'll be dealing with the topic critical analysis on Annavasruta Vikara. So this is a vast subject, critical analysis on Annavasruta Vikara. So I have tried to comprehend this subject so that it is clinically very useful. Tomorrow, if you have to go near the patients in the clinics and if you have to see the patients there, treat them, then this presentation, I think, would give you a lot of inputs. Usually, we all consume food right from the beginning of our life till we die. But we have never thought of giving importance to food as well as the srutas, which is very essential for consuming this food. Now, I would request all of you to go back thousands of years back when these Samhitas were written. At that point of time, it was the oral route that was the way through which the food as well as medicine was given to the patient. There were, if the food, when it was given through the oral path, it passed through the Annavasrutas and Agni Samskara would take place and further the digestion would continue. At times, when it was required to give certain medications, apart from where the Agni Samskara, particularly in the granny, was not required, then other routes like the anal route as well as the nasal route was sought. And in many instances, the other routes like using the skin for Abhyanga, Parishak, etc. was sought. And we have very few reference or very scanty reference on parenteral administration, particularly Karkapada Chikitsa. So the gist is that in olden days, the oral route was the main route through which the food was given for maintenance of nourishment, and that food also should be considered as medicine. And at times when the doshas are deranged, it was the medication that was given through the oral route. Hence, this was the most important route which supported the whole body as well as which provided the nourishment and maintained the health and life in an individual. Now, when you look into the concept of srutas in Charaka Samhita, the Charaka Samhita has explained these srutas as keeping in mind the physiopathological basis. When I say physiopathological basis, it is the function of the srutas that is given much importance rather than the anatomical structure, and the pathology that results due to the alteration of this physiology is explained in Charaka Samhita. And it is quite interesting, Charaka has mentioned 13 srutas where 7 srutas depict the Saptadhatus. And you have 3 srutas, Prana, Udaka and Anna. These are the 3 important nourishing factors that are required to nourish the Sapta Dhatu Srotasas. In other words, the health of the 7 dhatus have to be maintained. For this, nourishment is required. And the nourishment which is adequate, which has to be continuously supplied, is prana. And if prana is impaired, the person can immediately die. The next important nutrition that was required for the body was udaka. The balance of water or kleda in the body has to be maintained. And if there is an aberration, then there is the greater chances for the person to succumb from death. The next important srutas was Annavasrutas, where if the person takes less food or if he fasts for longer time, he can live compared to Udakavasrutas, but that was the most important srutas for providing the nutrition. Therefore, Pranavasrutas, Udakavasrutas and Annavasrutas, these are the 3 important srutas which give nutrition to the Saptadhatus. Once this nutrition is given to the Saptadhatus and the dhatus in the body are maintained, then the waste products that are formed in the body has to be thrown out, or they have to be eliminated. For this purpose, he has mentioned 3 more srutas. One is Purishava srutas, second is Mutrava srutas, and third is Vedava srutas. At this juncture, it is quite interesting, and it is the point of discussion that the Purishava srutas and Annava srutas, they together form the Mahasrutas, and both have got a close interconnection between them. And if you imagine a pipe through which certain materials do pass, if it is blocked at some end or if it is obstructed at some end, then the function in that particular pipe is obstructed. Similarly, if there is a disorder in the Annavasrutas, it would reflect on the Purishava. Similarly, a disorder in the Purishava would reflect on Annavasrutas, and the disease which manifests in Annavasrutas may continue also in the Purishava like Atisara, Pravahika, etc. where it begins with the Agni Mandya in the Annavasrotas. Therefore, whenever we discuss about Annavasrotas, we should also keep in mind that Annavasrotas will reflect on the Purushasrotas, and Purushasrotas, if there is a pathology that can cause aberration in the function of Annavasrotas. Hence, when we deal with the patients in the clinics, we should keep this in mind, that Annavasrotas and Purushasrotas should be kept in mind while taking the case and giving the treatment. But the scope of today's presentation is Annavasrotas, which I will be dealing. And in the same chapter, it is quite interesting. He says that apart from these 13 Srotas, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, he says Vata, Pitta, Shleshmanam, Punaha, Sarva Shariranam, Sarvani, Srotamsi, Ayanabhutani. In the sense, the doshas, Vata, Pitta, Kapha, move in all these Srotas throughout the body. It means that Vata, Pitta, Kapha does not require a separate Srotas. They move through all the Srotas and they are responsible for bringing about the changes in the Srotas or influencing the Srotas, in other words, which is responsible in causation of the disorders which will be unraveling as we pass through the presentation. So once again, I remind, Charaka has explained these Srotas based upon the physiopathological basis. And it is quite interesting. He says the mula for Annavasrotas is Amashya as well as Vamaparshva. It is very clear that Amashya is the organ where the Ama food is residing. When I say Amashya is the place where Ama food is residing, it means that that food which is not digested is residing in the Annavasrotas. It means that the upper GI tract, particularly the esophagus as well as the stomach, could form Amashya as the indigested food or the food in the process of digestion would be stored here. Then he uses the word Vama Parshva. If you go to the Siddhisthana in the context of Basti, he says that the Basti should be given by when the patient is lying in the left lateral position. It means that he says when the Basti is given through the left lateral position, the Grahani will be in the same plane in the Vama Parshva as that of Buddha, and the Basti, the activity of Basti could reach the Grahani. Therefore, it is quite imperative that when he uses the word Amaparshva with respect to Annavasrotas, it is the Grahani that has to be considered. And therefore, the Grahani and Amashya together should be considered as Annavasroto Mula. And when we consider the pathological entity, the aberration of function in these places resulting in the disease should be considered as Annavasroto Vikara. It is quite also interesting if you look into Sushruta Samhita, wherein he considers the Annavasrotas based upon anatopathological basis. He is used to anatomy because he is a surgeon. And here he says, he explains that it is the Amasha and Annavahini Damani are the composition of Annavasrotas. Therefore, it is quite interesting that Annavahini Damani as well as Amasha also forms the anatomical structure of the upper GI tract. Hence, in this presentation, I will be concentrating on the upper GI tract as Annavasrotas, and the lower GI tract would form the Purushasrotas, which is out of the scope of the discussion of this particular presentation. And before we start with, it is very important to know in Annavasrotas which dosha will act, because doshas are the one which is responsible for the causation of disease as well as for the maintenance of the health. Hence, particularly this in the Annavasrotas, it is the dosha that will have its role in digestion as well as the causation of disorder. Considering the role of Vata dosha, it is the Prana Vata which is very important for Anna Praveshakrit, for the food to enter through the upper GI tract, moving into the further stages. And when it reaches the gastrium, it is the Samana Vata which acts particularly in the lower gastrium as well as the duodenum. And because it is said that Annam Grannati Pachati, Vivecheti and Munchati, these are the functions that are ascribed to this lower part of the upper GIT. Therefore, it is the Pranavata and Apanavata has got importance when it comes to Annavasrotas, and Pranavata and Samanavata has got importance when it comes to the Annavasrotas Vikaras, and Apanavata has got its influence when we deal with the Purushasroto Vikara. Apart from Pranavata and Samanavata in Annavasroto Vikara, we should consider the Bodhaka Kapha because it is responsible for the perception of taste. Along with Bodhaka Kapha, it is the Kledaka Kapha which is present in the upper gastrium, which is responsible for digestion of the food. Along with Kledaka Kapha, it is the Pachaka Pitta which has got a significant role in the digestion of the food which takes place in the Annavasrotas. Therefore, Pranavata, Samanavata, Kledaka Kapha, Pachaka Pitta, as well as the Bodhaka Kapha, which are the important entities which is responsible in bringing about the Ahara Parinam. Along with that, Sneha is also been ascribed in Charaka Samhita, wherein he says Samyoga of these factors is responsible for digestion. And in Annavasrotas, we expect the digestion to take place. Therefore, for the proper digestion, it is that these doshas, which are proper functioning of these doshas, that are of paramount importance. Is the speed okay? Am I very fast?
No, sir.
Is this okay?
Sir, it is okay.
Because I have to finish the whole topic, I have to comprehend, so I'm a bit fast. If you think that I'm fast, you can tell in between, I can slow down.
Okay, sir, sure.
Okay. Now in Charaka Samhita further, he says that as long as the srotas are functioning normally, the Sharira does not get inflicted with any disorder. And this also holds good for all the srotas and very particularly to Annavasrotas. When we talk about Annavasrotas, this particular quotation, Tade tat srotasam prakriti bhutat annam vikare upasajjate shariram. When he says this, it means that any aberration in the Annavasrotas would bring about the disease not only locally in the Annavasrotas but also in the Sharira. So this should be understood with the background of the functioning of Agni, which I will be unraveling in the next slides to follow in this particular presentation. When we talk about Annavasrotas, the Dushti Lakshana of Annavasrotas has to be thought of. And here he says it is Ananabilasha, Arochaka, Avipaka and Chardi are the four important main presenting symptoms in Annavasrotas, in Annavasroto Vikara. Now if you look into this, all these four symptoms which are being explained, symptoms or signs that has been explained, particularly in Annavasroto Dushti, is pointing towards the upper GI tract. Ananabilasha, Arochaka, Avipaka and Chardi. Therefore, it is very clear that when we talk about Annavasrotas and we deal with the critical analysis of Annavasroto Vikara, it is the upper GI tract disorder that has to be dealt in detail, and its relation or its influence over the Samanya Vikara in the Sharira as well as in the Pakvashya has also to be discussed. So I hope it is very clear. Ananabilasha, Arochaka, Avipaka and Chardi, these are the four important Dushti Lakshanas. Therefore, any patient coming to the clinic presenting with these four Lakshanas, one has to start thinking about the Annavasroto Vikara and possible its interaction with other Srotasas that are explained in Charaka Samhita and Shushruta Samhita. Now, quite interestingly, in Shushruta, he explains the Vidya Lakshana, and I was telling it was the anatopathological basis which Shushruta has considered. He has given much importance to anatomy. And here he says, in case if injury occurs to the Annavasrotas, then it is the, he says, it is Admana, Shula, Chardi, Pipasa, Andya and Marana occurs. So here Andya, it is fainting as well as Marana can occur. It means that any injury that occurs like perforation etc. to the particular to the upper GI tract, or there is an obstruction internally or externally to the GI tract, then that can lead to such manifestation like Adman in the initial stages, pain in the later stages, Annovidvesha and Chardi in the later stages when there is blockage, particularly in the lower part of the upper GI tract. And when this continues for a long period of time, the person may suffer from vipasa and then fainting further. And finally, if this is not corrected, then the person can die. Therefore, all these lakshanas if present in the patient, then we should think it is the early stages where surgery is required or later stages where surgery is required for the disease which is afflicting the Annavasrotas. So when the patient comes to the clinic and presents with the symptoms of Annavasrotas, this point also should be kept in mind. Now, having said so, regarding the Vidya Lakshanas, now we have to understand why this Sroto Dushti, Annavasroto Dushti occurs. There should be some cause. And when you go through Charaka Samhita, he says, Atimatra Bhojana, Akala Bhojana and Ahita Bhojana are the three important causes for Annavasroto Dushti. All who are listening to this particular lecture should think whether throughout your life you have given importance to Atimatra Bhojana, Akala Bhojana, Ahita Bhojana for yourself, for your family, and as well as for your patients while diagnosing as well as while treating. We know all these things, but we have not given importance to these entities. Therefore, these are three important entities: Atimatra Bhojana, Akala Bhojana, Ahita Bhojana, which cannot be treated. It is the patient on his own. He should treat himself by doing Nidana Parivarjana, and it is the important function of the physician to give this advice that he should not consume Atimatra Bhojana, Akala Bhojana, and Ahita Bhojana. Now, if the patient consumes food in this manner, then what can happen? He says, Annavahini Dushyanti Vaigunyat Bhavakasyacha. This clearly shows that the Annava Soto Dushti Karanas lead to Agni Vaigunya, and this is the point that would be unraveled in this presentation, which is seen in all the disorders of Annava Srotas. So as we deal with the Annava Srotas critically, we find that how Agni Mandya is important, why Agni is important, how it should be thought of, what is the line of treatment that has been explained in the textbook. And this critical analysis will help you to have a newer outlook into the patient when you see them next time in your OPD. Always we should remember it is the Ahara which enters to the Annava Srotas has to interact with the Agni, and this Ahara will be digested by the Agni, and the outcome will nourish the doshas, and that doshas will have the effect over the Agni, and this is a vicious cycle. The Ahara getting digested by the Agni, and that will have the effect over the doshas. So in the initial part of the digestion, it is the Kapha dosha, next stage it is the Pitta dosha, and next stage it is the Vata dosha. And this will have again effect on the Agni, and if Agni is hampered, we'll have different pathological status of Agni like Tikshna-Agni, Manda-Agni, as well as Vishama-Agni. So it is very important to understand why we should keep the Agni free from Dushti, or what is the importance of Agni. So I would like to convey here that we have gone through this shloka, but I'm quite sure we have not sat back to think on each of these words explained here. The first word says Ayu, the lifespan of an individual. We work, we treat the patient, we may try to maintain the health for longevity. And this longevity is dependent on Agni, and we have not given importance to Annava Srotas throughout our life as well as in practice. Similarly, I request all of you, because the scope of this presentation is very less, the time given is very less, so you should think after this presentation, you should sit back, I'll share the slides, you should think, Ayu, what could be the importance of Agni? I'm quite sure one day is not enough for you to think on each of these words and the contribution of Agni in maintaining it. So Ayu, Varna, Bala, the strength, very important. Swasthya, it is the complete health. Then if you have to do any work, it is the Utsaha that is required. The very good nutrition that is required, that is Upachaya. And most important, he says, it is Oja, it is the immunity that is also dependent upon Agni, and it is the Teja, which is responsible for different functions in the body, is also dependent on Agni. Therefore, in the clinical practice, whatever it could be the disease, and when we start evaluating the patient, we should start evaluating the Agni, because these are the factors which the patient come to a physician to get Ayu, Varna, Bala, Swasthya, Utsaha, Upachaya, Prabha, Oja, Teja, etc. And all this is dependent on Agni. And we usually in the clinics, we do not give much importance to Agni. That should not happen. Always we should give first importance to Agni. He says, Kayo atra Agni ruchyate tasya chikitsaha kaya chikitsa. Therefore, this shows the importance of kaya chikitsa or Agni chikitsa. Now, if you look into the other two lines, it is quite interesting. He says, Shanti Agno Mriyate Yukte Chiram Jivati Anamaya. Yukte Chiram Jivati Anamaya. He gives you a guarantee that you will live long and you will live free of disorder if you can maintain the Agni. And the scope of explaining the Agni is in the Annava Srotas. Therefore, if you want a life which is free from the disorders, and if you want a long life or longevity, then definitely you should give importance to Agni. And if you do not give importance to Agni in your practice, then what can happen to the patient? Or if the patient does not give importance to the Agni, what can happen? He says, Rogihi syat vikrute. So Vikrita Agni will lead to different types of disorders. Now, a pronounced stage where if imagine the whole Agni in the GI tract is completely extinguished and there is no function of Agni maintained, even the slight function of Agni is not maintained, then what can happen? The food that enters into the GI tract will not be digested, it will remain as such, and such a condition will not give nutrition to the patient, and all the above attributes will decrease, and definitely he will die in the due course of time. So that is what he says, Shante Agna Mriyate. Therefore, this shows the importance of Agni, its role in the Annava Srotas, as well as in the manifestation of different disorders. Now, before I go into the details of the Agni Dushti and how critically we can analyze this Agni Dushti in the different disorders of Annava Srotas, I will tell you the importance why that has to be done. That is for the purpose of treatment. I'll give you a glimpse of the treatment so that you'll understand what has to be considered and why the other disorders like Agni Mandya, Grahani, Amlapitta, then Ajirna, etc., which will be explained later, what is the scope of treatment in such disorders and what we should keep in mind in the patient when they come to the OPD, what are the things that we should evaluate in the patient for the purpose of treatment. For that, I would give you a glimpse on the treatment, which will make you think the important things that we have to note down while we critically analyze the Annava Srota Vikaras. When you go through Sushruta Samhita, particularly in the 14th chapter, Shloka between 12 and 17, he has explained the various functions that are attributed to different rasas. And if you look into the karma of these rasas on the Annava Srotas, you will find the word Jarana, Pachana and Deepana explained for Amla Rasa, Pachana for Lavana Rasa, Deepana, Pachana, Rochana for Katu Rasa, Rochana and Deepana for Tikta Rasa. But when it comes to Madhur Rasa, none of the functions are attributed to Annava Srotas. And Kashaya Rasa, in the explanation of Kashaya Rasa also, none of the functions are attributed to Annava Srotas. Therefore, when you analyze this particular shloka from Sushruta Sutrasthana, it shows that Amla Rasa, Lavana Rasa, Katu Rasa and Tikta Rasa has got a definite role in Annava Srota Vikaras. Therefore, choice of these rasas or the choice of the food that has to be considered in Annava Srota Vikara or choice of the medicine with these rasas is of paramount importance with respect to the different functions that are attributed here in the treatment of Annava Srota Vikara. Now let me explain it in detail so that it will help or pave way for you to treat the Annava Srota Vikara. You know, Madhura, Amla, Lavana, these are the three rasas which act as Vatahara, Katu Tikta Kashaya act as Kafahara, and Tikta Kashaya and Madhura act as Pittahara. But with the explanation that we have gone through in the previous slide, where Amla, Lavana, Katu and Tikta rasas are useful in the Annava Srota Vikara, therefore the scope of Madhura Rasa and Kashaya Rasa is very less. Keeping this in mind, we have got only Amla Rasa and Lavana Rasa for the treatment of Vata dosha or the diseases which originate from the Annava Srotas due to Vata. So once again I say, the diseases of the Annava Srotas which is brought about by Vata dosha should be treated with Amla and Lavana Rasas like Bhaskara Lavana Churna. Such drugs should be used in such disorders. Now, when it comes to Kapha, the diseases which is constituted to dominancy of Kapha in the Annava Srotas, then we have Katu and Tikta Rasa available. But for Kapha, Tikta would also be useful, but more than Tikta would be useful. Therefore, we should prescribe or we should think of prescribing to the patients those drugs which has got Katu Rasa, particularly Panchakola Churna, etc. Now, if you have to treat those disorders of Annava Srotas where Pitta is dominant, then we have, it is Tikta Kashaya and Madhura Rasa, but when we have analyzed the previous slide, the role of Madhura and Kashaya Rasa is negated. Hence, the Rasa that is left over is Tikta Rasa. Therefore, the Tikta Rasa should be used in Annava Srota Vikara where the person is suffering from Pittaja disorders like Bhunimbadi, Vata, etc. Therefore, the prescription is very specific. It is not only the dosha as well as rasa that has to be considered, it is also we should consider which type of nidana, which guna is involved in the pathology. etc., which I will be unraveling in the next slides. If you look into the Agni Mandya, which is caused in the Annavasrotas due to the malfunctioning of Agni, and if it is caused due to Ruksha Guna, then the line of treatment one should think about is Deepaniya Dravya, Samskarita Taila or Grita, like Shunti Grita, etc. Now, one should keep always in mind when I'm unraveling these rasas, etc., you should note down this because this is the basis why we should know, why we should think about the different gunas, about the different nidanas, about different guna in the nidanas, about the different rasa in the nidanas as well as the treatment, about the different diseases that could prevail and its effect over the Agni. This has to be kept in mind. Keeping this in mind, I further explore saying that if Agni Mandya is caused due to Ati Sneha Guna or Ati Snigdha Guna, in such a condition, it is the Churna, Arishta and Asava should be given. For example, Chitraka, Asava, etc. should be given in such a conditions. And if the patient has got Bhinna Mala and if there is Buddha Upalepa, particularly in the conditions of Atisara, etc., in such conditions, it is Taila, Sura and Asava preparations which are most useful. Now, if the patient is suffering from Udavarta, and this Udavarta is responsible for bringing about Mandagni, in such a condition, Vibandha would be one of the symptoms. Therefore, if the patient in the clinic tells you about Vibandha, then Niruva Basti and Sneha Basti should be given to the patient. And if Dosha Vriddhi is responsible for the causation of Mandagni in such a condition, it is the Shodhana that is to be given to the patient as per the dosha that is dominant. Further, he says, if the disease is induced by Mandagni, that is Mandagni which is responsible for the causation of diseases, in such a condition, it is the Sarpi that produces Agni Deepana should be given, like Shunti Grita or Chitradev Grita, etc. should be given to the patient. Now, some or most of them think Langanam Paramoshadam, and they say that Upavasa is the best treatment and you should always do Langana. And it is a custom in India also to do Upavasa. Of course, autophagia has got its importance and it is good. But it is quite interesting. The Upavasa should also be done in the correct manner and it should be done in the correct amount. And it is very individualistic to an individual. If the person does more of Upavasa, that can also cause Agni Manda. He says, Upavasascha Mande Agnav. And in such a condition, the treatment should be Yavagu Bihi Pibet. So he says it is the Yavagu that has to be given, and this Yavagu should be mixed with Grita and given to the patients. He says Grita taken in between, in the middle of the meals or between the meals increases strength, nourishment, and improves digestion. Brahmanam, Deepanam, he says, and Balyam. So if you can analyze these three words after the presentation, if you can think on the word Balya, its scope is enormous. Think on the word Deepana, its scope is enormous. Brahmana, its scope is enormous in treatment as well as analysis in the patient. So when you critically analyze the patient, it is not only the rasa present in the drugs that you give and the nidanas. It is not only thinking about the doshas that are dominant in the drugs you give and the nidanas. It is also the guna like ruksha, snigdha. It is also the status of the mala, like Bhinna Mala as well as Buddha Upalepa. It is the other disease like Udavarta. It is also the other diseases causing Mandagni and also Upavasa, etc. Such things also should be kept in mind, and very specifically the treatment has to be given. So to understand these, the study of Nidana as well as Sampranti or the pathophysiology of different disorders of Annavasrotas is very important. Only when you know that, you can decide this particular treatment and give to the patient. So at the first instance, I have presented the treatment so that it would be useful to you, and later it would give a better understanding of the disorders that I will be explaining in the next slides. Further, he says that if the person is having chronic Agni Mandya, it is Dirgha, that is Dirgha Kalika Agni Mandya, and if the person is very weak, Shamaha, and if he is very Kshina, he is very emaciated. So in the clinics, the patient who has got chronic Agni Mandya may come, who is very emaciated, who is very weak. In such a condition, your management should involve the Mamsarasa, which is fortified with Amla Rasa Dravyas. So this also should be kept in mind. Therefore, whether the patient is emaciated or whether he is weak, whether he is strong, whether he is stout also should be taken into account while dealing with the patient, particularly in the OPD. Now one should always keep in mind, I said, Sarve Rogapi Mandagno, as well as I said, Langanam Paramaushadam. And one always should keep in mind that too much fasting, it cannot stimulate the Agni. Or if you think too much eating, because Agni is for digestion and too much eating would stimulate the Agni, this is also a wrong concept. Because something that Agni is very good, more you eat, more it will digest. It is not so. Something that if you fast, the Agni will be kindled. That is also not very true. It should be done matravat, because he gives a beautiful simile. He says that if there is no fuel supplied to the fire, it cannot burn. On the other hand, if you put much fuel on the fire, that fuel itself will extinguish the fire. Therefore, matravat ahara is the key in success of treatment and management annava svato vikara. Therefore, whenever you approach the patient, you should find whether matravat ahara is taken by that patient which is individualistic to him. This has to be assessed. And that is the key which would support the Agni and prevent the formation of the ama as well as Annavisha and causation of other disorders, as well as its influence over the Samanya Vikaras. Therefore, this has to be always inquired to in the patients. When the patient comes to the OPD, one should never forget to advise that the ahara which is mixed with the sneha should be taken according to the ahara vidhi vidhana, because this is the one which stabilizes the Agni. And if the patient is not doing so, this should be one of the advice in the patient, because that would be the nidana for the causation of annava svato vikara. And always one should advise and see that the patient should eat wholesome diet in appropriate quantity and always after the previously ingested food is digested. And most of the disorder of the annava srotas, if you look into the pathology, it is because the people eat unwholesome diet, which is very individualistic also. They eat in inappropriate quantity, and when they get their friends multiple times, they go and have food. It could be snacks, it could be coffee, tea, food, meals, etc. Therefore, one should make sure that only after the previously ingested food is digested, the next food should be taken. And if this rule is maintained in the patients, if this is inquired in the patients, then the pathology of annava srotas can be reversed. This will help in maintaining good health for a long duration without the vaishamyata of dhatu. The dhatu also will remain in good immaculate condition, which will lead to the saptasara of dhatu, which further contributes to immunity in the patients. The next shloka says that one should make all efforts to maintain samadosha. I said there is a relationship between dosha and Agni, and it is vice versa, and it is a vicious cycle. Therefore, all effort should be made to maintain samadosha, sama Agni, sama ushma, which functions adequately. Then this would bestow pachana of anna, and as a result, the person would have arogya, which is the paramount important aim of Ayurveda. It will give pushti to the person that is desired. The person will live long, ayuhu, and the person can do all the ascribed karmas due to the adequate bala. Therefore, these are the things that has to be kept, or these are the information that has to be kept in mind when the patient comes to the clinic, and when the history has to be taken and when treatment has to be administered. Now, the Manda dosha or Ati Vriddha dosha or dosha vaishamya, this is responsible for the manifestation of different disorders. This we always study and we discuss. And as I have told, there is a relationship between Agni and dosha, because Agni is the one which is responsible for digestion of ahara, and that ahara has got the effect over the dosha, and that dosha has got the effect over the Agni in the manifestation of different disorders pertaining to Agni, like Dikshna-Agni, Manda-Agni, etc. Therefore, this relationship between dosha and Agni has to be always kept in mind when we critically analyze the annava sroto vikara in the patient in the OPD. Why this has to be done is a question. Because, so he says this is very important, because if the Agni is not, if the Agni is not proper, if it is Manda Agni due to Kapha dosha, then it leads to Kaphaja Vikara. If it is Vishamagni due to Vata dosha, it leads to Vataja Vikara. If it is Tikshnagni due to Pitta dosha, it leads to Pittaja Vikara. Therefore, all the Vikara in the GI tract will be due to the improper functioning of Agni. Therefore, one should make all efforts to maintain the normal functioning of the Agni, or the Samagni has to be maintained. Now, in this particular shloka, he says, with respect to Tikshnagni, this Tikshnagni is seen only in two conditions. One is the Bhasmaka Roga and other is in Staulya due to the stimulation of the Samana Vata. In other conditions, it is mostly the Mandagni or Vishamagni that is present, and in most of the disorder, it is the Mandagni that has got paramount importance in the manifestation of the disorder. Therefore, physician should make all the effort to maintain Samagni in the patient. Then 50% of the treatment or 100% of the treatment is done in Anavasrotas, as well as the other disorders or other Samanyaja Nidana or Samanyaja Vyadhi, which is pertaining to the body. So it is not only the physician, it is the patient also should make all efforts to maintain Samagni, and due advice should be given to the patient on this regard. Now in the next shloka, this Tikshnagni, Mandagni and Vishamagni that we have discussed, it is responsible for causation of disorders, and in that shloka we have read Vishamo, Vatajan, Rogan, Tikshna, etc. Here in the commentary he says it is the Vataja Nanatmaja Vikara, Vittaja Nanatmaja Vikara, Kaphaja Nanatmaja Vikara are also caused due to the malfunctioning of Agni itself. And in this particular shloka I have highlighted, you can see Samanya Jamscha Jwara Atisaradhin. It means that Jwara Atisara Adhin, the list is very long. There are many other Samanya disorder which afflicts the whole body. This is also under the purview of the malfunctioning of the Agni. This shows that the Nanatmaja Vikara as well as Samanyaja Vikara are caused due to the malfunctioning of Agni, and this Agni, dominant part is in the Jatara as Jataragni, and its malfunctioning is responsible for all these disorders. Therefore, critical analysis of Annava Soto Vikara is very important in understanding the disease, in understanding the Nidana, as well as understanding the pathology and giving appropriate treatment. With this regard, when I said that when Agni is hampered, and most of the Agni disorder, apart from Staulya as well as Bhasmaka Roga, which is caused due to Tikshna Agni, most of the disorder is caused due to Agnimandya. And in Vishamagni also, sometimes it gets digested properly, sometimes it does not get digested properly, in the sense when it is not getting digested properly, there also it is the Agnimandya that will be present in the patient, but it is due to the activity of Samanavata. Hence, ascertaining the Nidana of Agnimandya in the patient who come to the clinic is very important. So one should inquire and advise adequately to the patient who is suffering from Annava Soto Vikara about Abhojana, Ajirni Atibhojana. Before the previous food is digested, the patient takes food. Vishamashana, the patient does not adhere to the rules that is being told in the textbooks with respect to the consumption of food. Consuming Asatnya Bhojana, Guru Bhojana, Shita Bhojana and Ruksha Bhojana. So when I say Shita Bhojana, eating ice cream, etc., Guru Bhojana, you are taking those food which are very heavy for digestion, which is also very individualistic. Ruksha Bhojana, taking more amount of dry rotis. So all this has to be inquired in the patient, and this will pave way for critical understanding of the Agniva Soto Vikaras, because these are the Nidana which will contribute to Agnimandya. Now imagine if the patient has involved in these Nidanas, then what would be the pathophysiology that would manifest in the manifestation of Annava Soto Vikara? He says, Dushati Agnihi. First and the foremost thing that could happen in the Annava Soto Vikara by the indulgence in the Nidana is affliction of Agni, that is Agni Vaishamya will result. So if Agni Vaishamya results, what can happen? He says, Sa Dusto Annam Natat Pachati Laguapi. Even though the food which is very light for digestion, in less quantity is consumed by the person is unable to digest it, because it is the inability of the Agni to digest even Lagu Dravyas. So he suffers from avipaka, and this avipaka is the most presenting symptom in Annava Sroto Vikaras that we'll be discussing because this is one of the important symptoms that is being told by the patient in the clinics when he is suffering from Annava Sroto Vikara. And here we can figure out the samprapti of this particular manifestation, which is responsible or which makes us to think about the different disorders that are present in the Annava Srotas, which has to be diagnosed based upon the signs and symptoms there. But the samprapti as well as the treatment should be done on the discussion that we have already completed. Now imagine there is Agni Vaishanya, the weak Agni cannot digest even the Laghudravyas, there is avipaka, then what can happen? This apachita ahara which is present, it attains shuktatva or amlatva. It gets purified, it attains such an obnoxious state where it gets converted into Visharupata. When I say the word Visharupata, it is an obnoxious state of the food, wherein it acts like a toxin. And this is responsible for the causation of multiple disorders locally in the Annava Srotas and its effect over the other Srotas as well. That is why the Nanatmaja Vikara as well as Samanyaja Vikara can also manifest due to Agni Mandya or due to aberration of Agni. Further, when the patient has come with the Annava Srota Vikara, it is very essential to ask these causative factors, because these are the causative factors which the patient would be suffering. One is excessive intake of water, other is irregular food habits or irregular food intake. It is not only ahara that would influence the Annava Srotas, one should also think about the vihara that also can bring about the affliction of Annava Srotas. Hence, a detailed asking about undue control of the natural urges that is called as sandharana should also be asked with the patient, and alteration of normal sleep. Most of you think that night outs or not sleeping properly, looking into the mobile late night, or the work pattern, particularly in the IT industry, etc., you do not consider it very seriously. The alteration of normal sleep pattern also leads to Agni Vaishanya, Ajirna, and the disorders of Annava Srotas. Therefore, a critical analysis of Annava Srotas means you should evaluate the nidana in the patient, whether he is taking faulty ahara, faulty vihara like Veda Sandharana, because it is the neurogenic control which will have effect over the enteric nervous system, which is responsible for the causation of the disorder. It is the alteration of sleep also that is responsible for Annava Sroto Vikara. Now, having said so, we never think about the manasika karana. He says jealousy, fear, anger, excessive greed, physical and psychological suffering, aversion like irsha, bhaya, krodha, etc. also is explained. And these are also responsible for bringing about ajirna, in the sense it has got effect over the Agni and in the Annava Srotas leading to the Annava Sroto Vikaras. Now I have highlighted that particular point there. It says annam na samyak parinamam ete. It means that ete, in the sense, due to all these reasons, the food does not get properly digested. This shows that these nidanas are of paramount importance in the manifestation of Annava Sroto Vikaras, and it is due to the aberration of Agni. And this should be inquired in all the patients and should be treated accordingly. Further, we see that in the patients, when they get the food of their liking or the food which they like the most, they eat indiscriminately. So he says, this is because they do not have control on themselves. He says, anatmavantaha pashuvat bunjyate yo apramanataha. In this kind of context, what can happen? He says, moolam ajirnam prapnavantihi. What can happen is ajirnam prapnavantihi. Such person will end up with ajirna. Where does ajirna occur? It is due to the weakness of the Agni. And where does it happen? It happens in the Annava Srotas. Then what is the outcome? He says, roganikasya te moolam. Roganikasya te moolam, in the sense, it is the root cause for different disorders. Hence, when you critically analyze the Annava Srotas, this has to be kept in mind for the local disorders of Annava Srotas as well as the other Srotases. Now in the next shloka, he says, even though the person may be wise enough, he may consume the food in proper quantity, the food of proper quality. Still, if the person is suffering from the psychological ailments like chinta, shoka, bhaya, krodha, etc., then in such a condition also, what can happen is he will not have normal digestion, and this will lead to many of the disorders of Annavasrotas. Here, one more thing which I have highlighted, you can see it is Shayya Prajagarehi. The word Shayya Prajagarehi shows agitation or altered sleep and wake cycle. So he does not sleep at proper time or he does not wake at proper time. If this cycle is altered, this also will have effect over the Agni. This also will have the effect over the digestion. This will have the effect over the Annavasrotas, and this will lead to Annavasrota Vikara, and also this could contribute to the other Samanya Vikaras. Therefore, this has to be kept in mind in all the patients who come to the clinics. Now, when the patient comes to the clinic, you have to analyze the lakshanas which the patient presents, like exhaustion. These are the common lakshanas which the patient tell in the clinics, which indicate that the patient is having Agnimandya. Like exhaustion, heaviness of the abdomen, sluggish movement of vata in the koshta, giddiness, reduced function of vata, constipation, and abnormal evacuation. If these lakshanas are present, then you should think that the person is suffering from Agnimandya, and this may lead to ajirna, and it can manifest as amajirna, vidagdajirna, vishtabdajirna, which are very important among 6 types of ajirna. Now, if you have to diagnose these different types of ajirna in the patient, then the signs and symptoms, I have put it in the slide because I'm running short of time. I will not go into reading these symptoms. I think you all know these symptoms. You have to diagnose the patient of Annavasrotas. Then you should look into these symptoms in the patient, whether they are present, and you should evaluate in the patient. Here it is quite interesting. He says swelling around the eyes and cheek. If this is present along with Udgara and with the Rillasa, then you should think about Amajilna. So when you look into the swelling around the eyes, always it may not be Pandu. Always you should think that it is renal disorder. It could be the disorder of Annavasrotas also. So keep these things in mind. I hope you will go through this slide, and you should evaluate each of these symptoms in all the patients who come to the clinic to critically analyze the Annavasrota Vikara in the patient. Now, if ajirna is present, what can happen? Sushruta says that there are 6 consequences of this ajirna. The patient may end up with amajirna, vishtabdajirna, vidagdajirna, and this can contribute further into Vishuchika, Alasaka, and Vilambika. Now, when the person is suffering from Alasaka, the person will come to the clinic and he would usually complain of excessive distension of the abdomen with severe distress as well as sound in the abdomen, that is Antrakujanaha, or even we identify it as Barborigmi. The upward movement of Vata dosha in the Kukshi could be seen. The patient would say that he has difficulty or he does not pass the feces or the gas through the anal route. The patient may also complain of excessive thirst and belching. Therefore, we should understand this Alasaka would be the next stage of Vishtabdhajirna, where Alasaka refers to the immobility of the doshas in the Kukshi. There is no upward or downward movement of the doshas or the ingested food. There is failure in the digestion of food, and that food which has failed to undergo digestion due to the weakness of the Agni, leading to Vishtabdajirna and then Alasaka, the food remains stagnant inside the Amashaya, and such a condition is called as Alasaka. And there is one more condition that can result, that is Vishuchika, and this is due to this manifests as the next stage of Amajirna, and if you have to identify this in the patient, when you do the critical analysis of Annavasrota Vikara, then the Gatrani Tudan, he says, Suchi Diriva Gatrani Tudan, in the sense, severe pricking pain will be present in the entire body. When severe pricking type of pain is present all over the body, one also should think about the Annavasrota Vikara, and it could be Vishuchika, which could manifest as the next stage of Amajirna. Hence, it is imperative to inquire into these symptoms in the patient, or when the patient complains of these symptoms, to diagnose Vishruchika. The symptoms could include Atisara, Vamatu, Pipasa, Shula, Brahma, Udveshtana, Jramba, Daha, Vaivarnya, Kampa, and in some patient, the Murcha could also be the manifestation. There is one more condition that has been explained, that is called Vilambika, and this is also termed as Dandalasaka. This is a condition which results due to the dominance of Kapha and Vata. Here, no Urdhva and other pravritti of dosha occurs, and this condition is very difficult to cure. Now, a question arises, what could be the difference between Alasaka and Dandalasaka, or Alasaka and Vilambika? In case of Alasaka, there will be severe pain, but Vilambika is comparatively a painless condition. This would help you in the differential diagnosis of the disease. This is a slide where Vataja Grahani is explained, wherein I have highlighted, if you look into that particular part, he says, Vannim sa achadya. It indicates that there is the aberration of the Agni, or the digestive fire, in the manifestation of Vataja Grahani, and in the pathophysiology, he says, Tasyam annam pachyate dukkam shuktapakam. This is what we were discussing in the previous slides and the pathophysiology. The next slide I have presented on Pittaja Grahani, wherein he says Antim Analam Balam, and this shows once again the aberration of Agni, and the manifestation is so Ajirnaha. The person will end up with Ajirna manifesting with Pittaja Grahani Roga. This is what we were discussing throughout in this presentation. When you look into the Kafaja Grahani, he says it is again Antim Agni Kupitaha Kafaha. So once again, it is the aberration of Agni that is responsible for the manifestation of Grahani. Then what could be the outcome? He says, Tasya annam pachyate dukkam. It also shows the difficulty in digestion. This is what we were discussing while analyzing the critical analysis on Annavasruta Vikaras. Therefore, this has to be kept in mind, and whatever the treatment that we have discussed should be employed in the patient. The other two type of Grahani, that is Samgrahani as well as Gatiyatra Grahani, are those conditions which are very difficult to treat, or they are asadhya to treat. Hence, there is no scope of discussing that here for the purpose of treatment. You should identify it so that we can tell them the prognosis. If you look into the next condition, which commonly we encounter in the clinical practice, is Amla Pitta. And when you go through the Samanya Lakshana of Amla Pitta, which the person usually complain of in the OPD, it involves Avipakaha, Klama, Utklesha, Tikta, Amla Udgaraha, Gauravahi, Rat Kantadaha, Aruchischa, Amla Pittam, Vadet Bishak, he says. So the first and the most important cardinal symptom that we see, or the pathophysiology that we encountered in Amla Pitta, is Avipaka. And this do manifest due to Agnimandya, and that Agnimandya is due to increase in the Amla Pitta guna of Pitta, which is also depicted by the symptom Tikta Amla Udgaraha. So this is what we were discussing in the critical analysis of Annavasruta Vikara from the beginning. So in Amla Pitta also it is Avipaka that is important. It is also the Dushti of Agni that is important for the treatment. Now when we have discussed these Lakshanas, how to do the differential diagnosis, one of the important things that we have to consider along with the Samanya Lakshanas or the Vishesha Lakshana, it is the Pratyatma Lakshana. So if the person complains of Madhura Udgara with Utklesha, then we should think the person is suffering from Amajirna. If there is Amla Udgara with Trishna, then the person is suffering from Vidagda Jirna. If the person complains of Vibandha along with Annavasruta Dushti Lakshanas, then we should think about Vishtabdha Jirna. If Ratkanta Daha and Tikta Amla Udgara are present, then the manifestation is Amla Pitta. If the person complains of Muhurbaddham, Muhurdravam along with the Annavasruta Vikara symptoms, then the diagnosis is Grahani. So this is how the various disorders manifest due to the aberration of function of Agni in the Annavasrutas, leading to Agnimandya, Ajirna, and different disorders. Hence, all the patients should be educated, and all the physicians should inquire in the patient who come to the OPD about these Lakshanas. These Lakshanas are called as Jirna Ahara Lakshanas. Whether the patient can digest the food which he takes. So it should be asked whether the patient has Udgara Shuddhi, whether the patient has Utsaha, whether the Vegas are eliminated properly, Vega Utsargaha, whether there is Laguta in the body as well as in the Koshta, whether there is timingly hunger, kshut, whether the person has got timingly thirst, that is pipasa, whether these lakshanas are present. And these one should strive hard. The patient should strive hard to attain these lakshanas by different methods that has been explained in Ayurveda, and it is the duty of the physician to explain the different methods to achieve these lakshanas in the patient, which would prevent most of the annavasruto vikaras. Now, if the patient is suffering from annavasruto vikara, and if you have treated that patient and you want to know whether the patient is cured from this disease, one is Dirnahara Lakshana that can also be utilized. Apart from that, Karaka Vimanasthana 8th chapter, he says, Abhyavarta Avilashaha, Abhivarya Avilashaha, Rachir Ahara Kale, Abhyavartasya Cha Aharasya, Kale Samyak Jaranam, Vatamutra Purisha Reta Samuktihi. This has to be evaluated in all the patients. During the treatment and after the treatment, this would give you an idea about the Agni Bala, whether the patient would feel like taking the food whenever he would feel like taking the food, whether he develops an taste for the food. This is very important, and this should happen at proper time. And when he develops the taste and he takes the food, whether that gets digested, whether that food that he has taken in the proper time, in the proper amount, whether it gets properly digested, and if it is properly digested, whether its influence over the Purusha Srotas, that is Vata, Mutra, Purusha, Mukti is attained. This has to be evaluated, and if this is achieved, then it means that Annavasruto Vikara, which we are critically analyzing, possibly is cured, or the Vyadhi is cured and Agnibala is restored in the patient. It is also quite interesting to note the Sanchaya, in the Sanchaya stage, he says, is Sanchitanam Kali Doshanam, Stabdapurna Koshtita, Pitavabasa, Mandoshmata Chandanam, Gauravam, Alasyam. So, these lakshanas which are explained here, most of the lakshanas are pertaining to the Annavasrutas, and the other lakshanas is the reflection of the Annavasrutas. Because when Sanchaya takes place, the person automatically develops an disinclination to the food, which causes the Sanchaya of that particular dosha. Here, Stabda Koshtata, Purna Koshtata, Mandoshmata, Hitavabhasata, all this shows the impaired functioning of the Agni as well as the pathology in the Annavasrutas. And when this pathology is present, proper digestion cannot take place. Therefore, proper nutrition is not possible to the Uttara Dhatus. Hence, Gaurava and Alasya all over the body can also be seen. Hence, the Sanchayas usually takes place in the Annavasrutas. Some amount can take place in different parts of the body. One has to keep in mind Sanchaya and Prakopa of the doshas in mind while dealing with Annavasruta Vikara. Most importantly, it is the Sanchaya. And when you give the treatment, when you analyze the Annavasruta Vikara, the doshas in Annavasruta mostly are present in the kosta. Hence, when Shodhana has to be given, Snehana as well as Swedana is not required usually. Directly you can go for Vamana or Virechana, and very particularly Vamana would be the best line of treatment because the doshas are present in the Amashya. If at all it is present in the Grahani, then Virechana would be the line of treatment. And Annavasrutas is the one which gives nutrition to the Rasavasrutas. And Annavasrutas continues as Purishavasrutas. Therefore, Dushya that would be usually afflicted, if not locally, then that could be Rasa Dhatu as well as the Purisha. And the Srutas that usually, that is specifically afflicted is Annavasrutas, but it will have an effect or the influence over the Rasavasrutas as well as Purishavasrutas. So this has to be kept in mind while evaluating the patient critically with respect to Annavasrutas. Drishti Prakara also should be kept in mind, particularly the Sroto Drishti. In diseases like Vishuchika, Ati Pravritti could be present, in Alasaka, Sanya may be present, in Chardi, Vimargamana may be present, and if the person is suffering from Arbuda or Vilma, etc., in such a condition, Siraji Granthi can also manifest. And always, when we talk about Annavasruta Vikara, Jatragni Mandyata or aberration in the Agni, in the Jatara, would be one of the main cause, and most of the disorder is due to Agni Mandya. Even Vishama is also a form of Agni Mandya itself, and sometimes it may be due to the increase in the Agni due to Tikshna Agni, that also has to be evaluated or kept in mind. And when the Agni does not function properly, one is the Visharupata of the Ahara, which has undergone Avipaka, could result, and this could be the understanding of, or the partial understanding of Ama, and that has to be evaluated, which is generated in the Kosta. And when we deal about Annavasrotas, I said the Annavasrotas has got the Amashaya, Vamaparshva as well as Annanalika. Therefore, Amashaya would be the Udbhavasthana, and Sancharasthana usually locally it could be the Kosta. And when the disease is standing for a long period of time, then Sarvadayika Lakshana can also be seen. And these Sarvadayika Lakshanas could manifest in the Vyaktasthana either locally, particularly in the Annavasrotas or Sarva Sharira, depending upon the cardinal features. Some of the diseases could be Ashukari like Vishuchika, some could be Cherakari like Grahani. So Vyadhi Avastha is also very important, and one also has to think about the Sadhya Sadhyata. Diseases like Chardi etc. could be Sadhya. Grahani is a bit Pichra Sadhya. Diseases like Sannipata Jugulma etc. could be Asadhya. So with this, this is how the critical understanding or critical analysis of Annavasruta Vikara, the role of Agni, the role of Agnimandya, role of Ajirna, how it manifests in the pathogenesis of various diseases of Annavasrutas, the importance of Agni, and what should be the strategy of treatment, which dosha should be evaluated, and which rasa should be evaluated, and which guna should be evaluated, the importance of different types of nidana, even the importance of upavasa as a nidana, etc. we have discussed. Now it is the great responsibility of the physician to advise to the patient. So I won't go into the details because I'm running short of time. Quickly I'll finish within 5 minutes. Superficially I'll finish so that it will give you an idea that whenever the patient comes, you should also evaluate whether the patient are doing this you should evaluate in the patient. Also, you should advise the patient that this is what should be followed properly. Then you can maintain the health of the Annavasrutas, and then the critical analysis of Annavasruta Vikara would be very fruitful. So the method of food intake, this has been discussed here in the slide. One should sit properly, concentrate on the food, should take seasonal food, should take the food only after the Jirnahara Lakshana is manifested, keeping in mind the Satmya, Asatmya, and he should not take very slowly or very fast, Nati Druta or Nati Vilambita, and predominantly Dravapradana Ahara should be taken and Matravata Ahara should be taken. And when the patient has to consume the food, the particular method of consumption of the food also should be maintained. First, he should take the Madhura Rasa Ahara because the pacification of Vata in the Prakwashaya takes place. Next, it is the Amla and Lavana Rasa that has to be taken in the healthy person because this activates the Jatragni. And next, it is the Katutik Kashaya that has to be taken at the end of the ingestion because this pacifies the Kapha. And this should be advised to the patient to maintain the Agni so that he does not suffer from Agnimandya, Ajirna and other disorders of Annavasrutas. This is how critically you can analyze the Annavasrutas. And when the food is taken in proper quality, when it is taken in proper method, that is, if it is taken in Kalabhukta, it gives Prinana, Satmyanna gives pleasant to the body. When Lagu food is taken, it quickly digested. When gets quickly digested. When you take Snigdha Ahara, it gives Bala. When Ushna Ahara is taken, it increases the gastric fire. When the food is taken properly, then it maintains the Dhatu Samya. This is how Dosha, Dhatu and Mala would function normally. One should make all the efforts to avoid such food which are Dushta, which are Dishta, which are Puti, which are Chirasiddha, which are Stira, etc. That is, all those food which are having toxins, which are not very clean, which are having excessive katurasa, which are stale food, which are hard food, and so on. Even it's quite interesting, he says, Upadagda, those food which are burnt. It is a fashion now to take such food which are burnt. You might have taken food in the barbecue. So he says, this also should be avoided. But clearly he says that this has to be avoided, and a person who runs such a restaurant, if he reads this Samhita, definitely he would have to close the restaurant, or in other words, most of the restaurants require to be closed. Now, when you take the food also, you should repeatedly sip water and you should clean the mouth so that you can perceive the rasa. And the rasa, when it is perceived properly, then that develops the inclination towards the food, and then the Agni would be maintained, and that maintenance of Agni will not lead to the Agni-mandya or other disorders. This is how the disorders of Annavasrutas can be avoided. Now it is quite interesting. They say that flossing is the recent advent, or it is a recent invention in the dental science. They say that floss should be used, different methods are told. But it is quite interesting in Ayurveda. He says Trina should be used, and this should be used to remove the remnants that are stuck between the tooth. This is what has been explained in the shloka. And this particular oral hygiene, even flossing was done in the olden times, which most of the very educated, very qualified people fail to do in the modern times. After the food, since kapha increases, there is also indication of dhumana as well as tambula sevana. This dhumana does not mean cigarette smoking after the food. Rather, it is a particular method where dhumapana should be done according to Ayurveda. In Ayurveda, the smoke is taken through the nose and it is left out through the mouth. It is not taken through the mouth and left through the nose, as in modern times. The utility of Tambula Sevana also is being told in Ayurveda as the Paschat Karma, therefore this also should be adopted. Always this should be advised to the patient that just after taking food, he should rest on the left side of his body, or he should lie down on the left lateral side, or he should rest till Annaklama has decreased. After Annaklama decreases, he should walk for at least 100 yards and then he should sleep on the left lateral side. So this is one thing that all should practice, which is missing. Afternoon we go to the hotel or we bring the food, we are busy with our work, we eat the food and we rush to the work. Never we think about relieving the Annaklama, never we think about walking 100 yards, never we think of lying down for a short period of time on the left lateral side. So this has to be advised to the patient. With these words or with this presentation, we have discussed regarding the critical analysis of Annavasruta Vikaras. So if you have any questions, you can ask me.
Thank you, sir. We have few questions by our viewers.
Yes, please.
How Manasika Karanas contribute the Dushti of Annavasrutas?
Okay, through Ayurveda I have explained. I think the Ayurveda explanation is not very satisfactory. They want a more explanation with respect to modern science. So it is quite interesting. If you look into one, it is called as Amla Pitta, wherein Amla Guna of the Pitta increases. So a person who is stressed, maybe some of you, if you are stressed, what can happen is, it is one of the nerve, that is the vagus nerve, which innervates from the brain to the gastrium, which gets stimulated. And when this vagus nerve is stimulated, the oxyntic cells which are present, they secrete more amount of acid, and this is responsible for increase in the Amla Guna of Pitta or hyperacidity that leads to the Kanta, Urodaha, Daha, Urodaha, as well as Tikta Amla Udgara. Therefore, the Manasika Karana, stress, etc., also would lead to the Annavasruta Vikara. It is widely understood that the enteric nervous system of the GI tract that is responsible for the digestive processes. The other nervous system or the brain also will have an effect over the enteric nervous system, and this is responsible for the manifestation of the Annavasruta Vikaras. Hence, definitely the Manas has got an effect over the Annavasruta Vikara. In the beginning I said regarding the dosha as well as the Manas, I said dosha travel through all the srotases. A separate srotas is not required, and Manas is present throughout the body in all the srotas. This is what Charaka has told. Therefore, any affliction of the Manas would result in Annavasruta Vyadhis. Hope I have cleared it out.
role of Agni Dushti in Agantuja Vikaras?
Now this is a very good question. In Agantuja Vikaras, when the disorders are from outside, possibly Abhigata, etc. Now, one thing that we have to always remember, we have this confusion whether it is a dosha drishti first or whether it is dosha drishti takes first or it is the trauma that takes first. So, if there is Abhigata, first it is the trauma, then dosha drishti, and then how it could be a samanya javikara. Now, when we practice in the clinics, always we should remember that medicines cannot cure any disease. Medicines, I repeat, no medicine can cure a disease. It is the body of that particular person itself cures the disease, or those factors in the body cures that particular disorder. So, if samadosha, samadhi, etc. has to be maintained, it is the factor which is present in the body which is responsible for its maintenance. Then, what is the role of medicine? Medicine only will help in aiding it. Therefore, if there is a agantuja vikara, imagine there is a trauma, then there is a wound. And here, how the Agni, what is the role of Agni? Then we should think all the Srotases is nourished by the Annava Srotas. And the concept of Sthanastha Dhatu and Margastha Dhatu, Posha Dhatu and Poshaka Dhatu. Therefore, the nutrition to the Dhatu is given from the Annava Srotas. And in the Annava Srotas, if this nutrition is compromised, then that Dhatu cannot replenish. And that Abhigata, which is caused, cannot be treated. For example, a patient in whom the Annava Srotas Agni is involved, Dhatu Agni is also involved, he is suffering from Prameha. And in him, if there is a wound, that wound does not get healed because the nutrition that is produced from the Annava Srotas cannot be utilized in the Dhatus. Therefore, there is an interrelationship between the Annava Srotas because that gives nutrition for it gives nutrition for the Dhatus to arrive at normalcy. And when all the Dhatus are in normalcy, we say that it is Sarvasara Purushaha, including Sattva, and that is an immaculate condition where the Ojas is at paramount and the person is not suffering from any disorders. Hope I answered your question.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, next question. How to differentiate Ananabhilasha and Arochaka?
Now, Ananabhilasha is the person, he does not feel like taking food. He does not have an inclination for food. But the person may have inclination for food, but he does not get the taste, as in Amajirna. It is a condition where he will have Udgara Shuddhi, but he will not have an inclination for taking food. So, this is how we can differentiate between these two conditions.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Sir, what is the importance of ultrasonography in the diagnosis of Annavaha Srota Vikaras?
This is self-explanatory. The question is self-explanatory. The question is self-explanatory. Ultrasonography in Annava Srota Vikaras. There are two things. I understand the background that you have asked. There are two things. One is Grahani Roga, other is Grahani Dosha. When Grahani Dosha is present, it is the Agni, aberration in the Agni will be present. When the particular Avayava Grahani undergoes Dushti, then it is Grahani Roga. In such a condition, ultrasonography may be useful to diagnose. In some other conditions, if there is Siraja Granthi in the Annava Srotas, or Shushruta has explained the Vidya Lakshanas, wherein I have told you there could be the pressure from outside, there could be growth, structures, etc. In such conditions, the ultrasonography may be useful. But the barium swallow X-ray has a greater role in such conditions. Hope I answered your question.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Sir, can we consider all the metabolic disorders in Annavaha Srota Vikaras?
This is a very good suggestion. Now, Annava Srota Vikara, why I do not consider is because now Annava Srotas I had demarcated in the beginning, and I was supposed to speak on Annava Srotas. I did not mix up Atisara, then the Arsha, etc. Even though the pathology starts in Annava Srotas itself and then continues into the Purishava Srotas, I was supposed to speak only on Annavasrotas, so I spoke on these disorders. Now, when it comes to metabolic disorders, I said when I was talking about Agni, also I was talking about Jataragni. There is something called as Dhatva-Agni, and there is an interrelationship between Jataragni and Dhatva-Agni. And when this relationship is disturbed, then metabolic disorders do manifest. Now, we diagnose in the clinics the patient is having diabetes mellitus, patient is having hypertension, patient is having hyperlipidemia, the patient is having albuminuria, patient is having cardiac complaints. Now, we diagnose it differently, but it is not different. If you look into the modern method of diagnosis, they are diagnosed together, they are all linked, it is called as metabolic syndrome. Therefore, this does not restrict ourselves only to the GI tract. It also includes the explanation of Dhatva-Agni. Definitely, there is an influence of Jataragni over the Dhatva-Agni. Hence, discussing metabolic disorders in the sense all the disorders or most of the disorders of the body has to be discussed here. Definitely, there is a link between the Annavasrotas as well as these metabolic disorders because they are interdependent. But the scope of discussion today was Annavasrotas, which in the beginning I had very clear what I would consider as Annavasrotas in this presentation, and the critical analysis based on that would be done in this presentation. Hope I answered your question.
Thank you, sir. Sir, next question, how to understand the genetical cause in Wilson's disease in terms of Ayurveda?
Sorry?
Sir, how to understand the genetical cause in Wilson's disease in terms of Ayurveda?
Wilson's disease is a disorder which I think is connected to the Raktavasvato Mula, where there is impaired metabolism with respect to the copper. So I would not touch this. Probably it would be touched in the afternoon, I think so, while dealing with Raktavasvato Vyadis. Now, Koshta, Koshtanga, Mahasvatas, Annavasvatas, Purishavasvatas, very specific understanding. Then, very specifically, if I demarcate, then I don't think I should go out of the way in such disorders. But I'll give you some clue in treating such disorders. What should be done is, so there are various drugs which are used in Rasha Shastra for Marana, etc. processes connected to the Tamra. So such drugs should be very cautiously selected. Then the dosha, etc. with respect to the Raktavasvato Mula should be evaluated, and using those drugs in different forms, the patient has to be treated, particularly with respect to Basti or particularly with respect to the oral route medication. This is how the approach should be.
Thank you, sir. Sir, last question. As they said, for increased Agni, Upavasa should not be done. But in Jwara, we will do Upavasa to cure Jwara. Please elaborate.
Sorry, can you repeat it, please? Distracted here.
Sir, as they said, for increased Agni, Upavasa should not be done. But in Jwara, we will do Upavasa to cure Jwara. Please elaborate.
Yeah, a very good question. I didn't say that Upavasa should not be done. I said Upavasa is very specific to an individual. What Upavasa, if Gandhiji can do 21 days Upavasa, he can be alive. I don't think all of us could be alive for 21 days of Upavasa. So this Upavasa is very individualistic, and this Upavasa should be done only to that amount. Matravat Upavasa should be done. If Upavasa is done excessively, only in that condition it causes Agnimandya. If Matravat Upavasa is done, then that brings about Agni Deepana. Therefore, this has to be kept in mind.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for clarifying the viewers' doubts. So I do like to thank you, sir, for taking time away from your busy schedule to share the knowledge with us. Thank you, sir. And
Before we conclude, I would like to thank Ayurveda Mahavidyalaya and Hospital Hubli for arranging this seminar, particularly the Department of PG Studies in Roganidana for arranging Srutam Veshana, a national webinar. I also would like to thank the respected President, Dr. M.M. Joshi, respected Chairman, Dr. G.H. Marigal, most respected Principal, Dr. Prashant A.S. Sir, respected Dean Dr. J.R. Joshi, the organizing committee, Chairman Dr. Raju Timmapur, Vice Chairman Dr. Purnima, coordinators Dr. Mamtaj Walkar, Dr. Mahima SP, Dr. Ravi Verma, Dr. Akshay Kumar, also the PGs. I would not name the PGs because there are, I think all the PGs would be involved. If I name one, others would be a bit taken aback. So all the PGs, when I say PG, you think it is personally, I'm congratulating you. I thank you all for giving this opportunity. Whatever I could share, I have shared. Hope it is useful. If you have some reservations still, or you think I have not clarified or I am wrong somewhere, then you can post that to me on my WhatsApp. Possibly my phone number is 944-860-8927. I repeat, 944-860-8927. I'll be there always to clear the doubts, whatever I know or whatever I can. So with these words, I thank the whole unit of Ayurveda Mahavidyalaya and Hospital Hubli. It was a wonderful experience. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So thank you everyone, and thanks again for joining us today, and we will see you in the afternoon session at 4 p.m.
Thank you.